Discover the inspiring moment when a single dad transformed a little girl's world forever. Michael rubbed his eyes, the morning light creeping through the thin, worn curtains of their cramped apartment. The clock blinked 5 a.m., a number that felt like a weight pressing on his chest. He took a deep breath, bracing himself for another grueling shift at the mechanic's shop. The grease stains embedded in his skin were constant reminders of his tireless dedication, and yet, standing at the threshold of his daughter's bedroom, he felt a gnawing emptiness. Could he keep doing this, providing a roof and meals, while missing out on the fleeting joys of fatherhood? Every time he swung open the garage door, his chest tightened, his heart heavy with the realization that he was a single dad navigating a world that often felt far too large and unwelcoming. Lily's laughter a few rooms away filled the space with warmth that both soothed and tortured him in equal measure. At 7, her spirit was as vibrant as the colors she splattered across construction paper, her dreams stretching far beyond their humble means. A few weeks back, she sat cross-legged on the worn-out living room floor, her brown eyes sparkling with excitement as she recounted her plans for the school's upcoming science fair. "Daddy! I want to build a rocket!" she exclaimed, her imagination soaring high, only to falter when reality loomed over her like a dark cloud. "But we don't have the stuff," or the time. That doubt stabbed at Michael, leaving an ache he couldn't shake. "No, we can figure this out together," he whispered back, a pledge that anchored itself in his heart, boosting his skirted confidence as he resolved to gather whatever scraps and resources he could. The internal conflict clawed at him. How could he craft dreams for her when he feared their very foundation was built on fading light? As their garage morphed into a makeshift workshop, filled with discarded parts and half-finished projects, hope mingled with despair. Every evening melted into midnight labor. The laughter was mixed with frustration as they dealt with countless setbacks. The sound of a soda bottle tower crashing echoed softly in the dark, yet through the irritation rose their budding bond, infused with lessons of patience and resilience. Just as Michael reveled in moments of warmth, a pit would form in his stomach. Would this be enough to teach her? His mind raced, each doubt conspiring against his resolve. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. And so the day of the science fair arrived, charged with a buzz of nervous energy. Yet as they unveiled their work, Michael felt as if invisible chains were gripping him at the rear, dragging him into uncertainty. When their homemade rocket, a proud amalgam of effort, fizzled instead of soaring, he found himself frozen by his daughter's disappointment, a mirrored reflection of his own failures. It was a moment ripe with anguish. As her brightness dimmed, so did a piece of him. Michael held her tight, whispering promises against the storm of his self-doubt. They would not stop here. They would dig deeper, find another way to reignite that spark. But as they loaded the car with new materials for a second chance, anxiety wrapped around his heart, piercing through his thoughts. Could he truly transform not just Lily's world, but his own fragmented heart, as they faced the world once more? The morning after the science fair, Lily's excitement had dimmed, replaced by a muted sense of disappointment that hung in the air like a heavy fog. Michael watched her, noting the way her fingers absent-mindedly traced the outlines of their failed rocket. It left a bitter taste in his mouth, a constant reminder that he had tried, but trying had not been enough. As he prepared breakfast, flipping pancakes with an absent-mindedness that matched the sorrow draping over them both, he came to a realization: they needed a new strategy, one that didn't revolve solely around building something physical. This was about nurturing her spirit, the very fire that had led her to dream big in the first place. Perhaps they could shift their focus from constructing rockets to exploring the wonders of science in simpler ways. "What about the stars tonight, kiddo?" he mused, suddenly feeling a spark of inspiration fueled by their past evenings spent gazing up at the sky. "We could go to the park. I hear there's going to be a meteor shower." For a second, her expression flipped from dejection to intrigue. "Really? Can we see them, Daddy? Can we?" A flicker of hope ignited within him as her enthusiasm bubbled over. In that moment, he knew it was crucial to reassess his approach. They might not have built a physical rocket, but they could still launch dreams together through stories, exploration, and imagination. The day passed in a blur of preparation, as Michael expanded his role from failure-ridden mechanic to astute father. They gathered blankets, snacks, and even a borrowed telescope. The contrast of preparing for stargazing rather than engineering felt freeing, like he was shedding an old skin. Michael's mind drifted, contemplating how he mirrored Lily in this journey. Just as she yearned to reach for the stars, he was desperately reaching for clarity in his own life. A mechanic by trade, he realized now that he was more than just a provider. He was an instiller of hope, a director of dreams and a champion of resilience. As they arrived at the park, the fading sunlight provided a breathtaking backdrop, splashing hues of orange and pink across the sky. Children's laughter echoed around them, intermingling with the sounds of nature as fires of inspiration danced in his heart. Setting up their spot, he felt the weight of responsibility lighten. It was no longer about failure but about possibility. Lily beamed, her wide eyes soaking in the scene, and as evening descended, her bubbling excitement returned. They lay side by side on the blanket, scanning the heavens for shooting stars. For every flickering light, he quickly learned to gauge her curiosity, diving into explanations of constellations that would have once stifled him with uncertainty. "Look! There's Orion!" she squealed, and Michael marveled at how she effortlessly knitted joy with learning, igniting the same flame within him. He began to realize that the moments of connection mattered more than the structure of their projects. Through these experiences, both he and Lily were building something profound, yet as their eyes glistened with wonder, self-doubt crept back in like an unwelcome shadow, reminding him of the untapped potentials in his own life. Did he possess the courage to pursue more than the mechanic shop, to explore avenues that fed his own dreams? Would pursuing these desires mean moving away from stability, or could it coexist with their simpler joys? When the first meteor streaked across the sky, wishing that both father and daughter could find their way upward became his silent prayer. And as he turned to share the moment with Lily, who was captivated by the spectacle, he felt a determination rise within him, echoing her spirit. That night, as they packed up to leave, the feeling of newfound ambition mingled with the chill of uncertainty. What if this moment was the first step toward not just rekindling Lily's sparkle, but reigniting his own thirst for a life that transcended mere survival? But what if pursuing those dreams required a sacrifice he wasn't ready to confront? As the week unfolded, Michael found himself unable to shake off the lingering inspiration from their stargazing night. Each day, amid the usual bustle of workshop noises and greasy machinery, the vision of pursuing something beyond the routine lifestyle he had settled into nagged at him. What if he could step into a new realm, one that didn't just revolve around repairing engines but igniting ideas? He could hear Lily's laughter echoing in his mind, the way her face lit up when they talked about the stars. That thrill suggested opportunities, not just for her but for him too. It was no longer just about nurturing her ambitions, he felt a pull toward his own desires, one buried deep within layers of practicality and mundane adult obligations. One afternoon, while busy fixing an engine, he caught sight of a flyer pinned on the community board at work. It advertised a weekend workshop on astronomy, geared toward parents and children. The session promised to teach participants about the universe in creative ways. His heart raced as he envisioned the possibility of sharing this experience with Lily, transforming what began as a cosmic exploration into meaningful bonding. He could learn alongside her, inspire her, and perhaps even unleash the long-seated aspirations he had suppressed. Yet the dark side of his yearning also bubbled to the surface, a fear of inadequacy. Was he equipped to engage on this level? He debated whether attending would actually make him feel more connected or expose the gaps in his understanding. The internal struggle intensified as he reached for the flyer, trembling fingers betraying the urgency swelling inside. That evening, Michael looked into Lily's eager eyes as they prepared dinner together. "What do you think about spending this weekend learning more about stars and planets?" Their essay workshop, the words tumbled out, laced with hope but also a spooling doubt. Would she recognize the tremor in his voice? Her response astonished him. "That sounds amazing, Daddy. Can we build a telescope?" The excitement radiating from her was infectious, pressing against his reservations and wrapping him in the heat of her enthusiasm. However, as he tucked her into bed later that night, lingering questions anchored him. How would he balance this new venture into the unknown with the responsibilities he already carried? What if he stumbled? What if he couldn't provide her with the same sense of wonder that she found in the stars? He sat on the edge of her bed, contemplating how he had always been the one standing beneath a steady sky, afraid to reach beyond. In this moment, he realized pursuing this workshop wasn't merely about Lily, it was about redefining himself. The dawn of the workshop loomed, yet he found it increasingly harder to quell his nerves. Michael spent countless hours reading about telescopes, astronomy, and activities designed for children. Each piece of information came with a sense of excitement but also a growing trepidation. What if he failed to engage her imagination the way those lights in the sky did? The night before the workshop, he lay awake, calculating every possible scenario. What if the other fathers were more knowledgeable? What if Lily lost interest? With each anxious thought, an unshakable sense of resolve bubbled beneath, urging him onward. And then, as he lay under a blanket of stars in his mind, he remembered the thread that connected them both, the pursuit of dreams beyond the horizons of their current lives. The entire concept began to shift within him, igniting a fire that challenged the voice of doubt. It was time, he realized. Time to cultivate an environment of exploration, laughter, and learning for both himself and Lily. As he finally closed his eyes, a sense of purpose intermingled with the anticipation of stepping into that workshop. But in the back of his mind lingered the pressing question, was he ready to embrace this journey, regardless of where it might lead? The next morning, as they prepared to leave, he could sense a current of change rippling through him. It wasn't just a workshop, it felt like a launch pad for something much bigger. The moment they crossed the threshold into the learning center, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement, but just as swiftly, insecurity reared its head again. What surprises waited on this path, and was he ready to meet them head-on? The room was alive with laughter and chatter as Michael and Lily entered. The scent of popcorn mixed with the fragrance of fresh paint from displays showcasing the cosmos. He scanned the room, absorbing the sight of families buzzing with anticipation, sharing ideas, and cradling makeshift telescopes that in this vibrant atmosphere, Michael felt like an outsider. The easy interactions among the other parents evoked his insecurities. The thought that they might be seasoned stargazers nudged at him like a sliver embedded in his mind. He clenched his fists, pushing aside the urge to retreat. This was for Lily, he reminded himself, clinging tightly to her small hand, grounding himself in their shared mission. As they approached the registration table, the coordinator smiled warmly and welcomed them. "Excited for the journey ahead?" she asked, her enthusiasm infectious. Michael managed a nod, yet inside, a storm of doubt roiled. He could feel Lily's excitement radiating, oblivious to the turmoil swirling within him. The workshop began with a brief introduction, the instructor effortlessly weaving together stories of the cosmos and hands-on activities. Michael felt his initial hesitation start to ebb as he caught glimpses of Lily, her eyes widening with curiosity and wonder. When the instructor invited the participants to work in pairs to construct a model solar system, a potent mix of both terror and exhilaration struck him. The challenge rippled through his mind. Could he truly grasp the concepts and engage Lily's imagination? In that fleeting moment, a pivotal decision emerged: not to succumb to the fear of inadequacy, but to lean into the uncertainty. "Let us build something amazing," he declared, suddenly buoyed by a wave of determination. Lily beamed back at him, her delight illuminating the room more brightly than any celestial body. They gathered materials, spheres from foam, paint, and glitter. Together they sculpted vibrant planets, pouring their energy into crates representing the solar system. The more they collaborated, the more Michael felt his confidence burgeon, the creative process acting like a salve for his anxieties. "Daddy, this is just like real space," Lily exclaimed, sweeping her hand across the colorful display they had crafted. In that instant, her belief in him transformed something fundamental. It acted as a catalyst, igniting his own forgotten dreams, sparking a revival of wonder he thought long buried. Then came the moment when the instructor announced it was time to observe the night sky. The workshop shifted outdoors, and Michael felt apprehension surge again. How would he handle the telescopes when the time came? As they set up, he watched other parents smoothly navigate equipment with ease. Panic knotted in him. "Can we look at the moon?" Lily's hopeful eyes turned toward him. The sheer trust in her gaze hit him like a wave, overwhelming yet grounding. The focus was no longer on his insecurities but rather on sharing this moment with her. "Absolutely. Let us see the moon together." He took a deep breath, resolving to confront the moment. Guided by a sense of responsibility, he positioned the telescope. He struggled momentarily, fumbling with the knobs, a surge of embarrassment pricking at his resolve. Finally, it clicked into focus. He could see the craters. The glowing, reflective surface came alive in Lily's eyes, and she gasped in pure awe. "Look, Daddy! Look at all the mountains!" In that second, Michael felt a ripening sense of achievement bloom within. Every doubt he harbored began to dissolve as the joy of discovery filled their shared space. As they swiveled the telescope, he realized it wasn't merely an exploration of the stars, they were also mapping a new territory of their relationship. The more he leaned into the experience, the more he discovered a latent passion for learning he didn't know resided in him. This commitment to adventure radiated not just for Lily but for himself too. As the night deepened, Michael took a moment to reflect on how the workshop served as a bridge, leading him from the tether of self-doubt into the broad expanse of potential. Despite the shadows of insecurity that still loomed at the edges of his mind, he found himself yearning for this journey to continue, to elevate beyond just stargazing. As they began the walk back to their car, he sensed a profound shift. A revelation struck him: this enthusiasm for exploration and learning didn't have to end with the workshop. What he hadn't anticipated during the initial apprehension was this renewed desire not just to guide Lily but to rediscover himself as well. But even as they reached the car, Michael's mind raced with questions. Would he maintain this momentum? What would be the next step in their journey together? As he settled into the driver's seat, the hum of the engine faded as a thrilling thought emerged. Perhaps it was time to not just teach but delve deeper into the mysteries that awaited them beyond the night sky. His heart quickened with anticipation. As the car rolled through the dimly lit streets, the weight of the evening pressed on Michael's chest like the vastness of the cosmos they'd just explored. He felt exhilarated yet cautious, his heart a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The workshop had ignited something within him, but now questions spiraled in his mind: how do I sustain this newfound passion? How can I ensure that Lily and I grow together in this journey? He glanced at his daughter in the rearview mirror. Her face was still aglow with the remnants of wonder from the telescope. If only he could capture that magic and draw it upon his own canvas of life. For Lily, he must be more than merely present, he had to be proactive in shaping their experiences. Once they got home, the house felt quiet, almost suffocating after the vibrancy they had just departed. As he set down the backpack filled with their solar system project, sadness washed over him. Would she lose interest as quickly as she had discovered it? Momentarily overwhelmed, he stood there, contemplating the implications of his self-doubt. He rummaged through the clutter and unearthed an old astronomy book from college, its spine dusty from neglect. He opened it, reminiscing about the excitement of learning that had once fueled his ambition. What had happened to that version of himself? "Daddy, can we look at the stars again tomorrow?" Lily's voice sliced through his reverie. In the innocent innocence of her tone lay a challenge, the chance for him to not just be a father but also a guide, to encourage her budding curiosity. "Of course, sweetheart. How about we make it a regular thing? A star night every week." The idea erupted from his lips before he could second-guess it. "That sounds awesome." Lily squealed, her enthusiasm infectious and rejuvenating. Seeing her respond triggered a shift in Michael. it was no longer about him being a resource for Lily but rather about building a shared adventure where they would explore new territories together. As they prepared for bed, Michael found himself mulling over the concept of consistency. They could create a ritual and anchor for their exploration. Each week could unveil a new part of the universe or a concept of science. And maybe we can invite some of your friends when they're ready, he mused aloud. Can we use my project? It can be like our invitation. Lily proposed, bouncing on her heels. The gears in Michael's south mind clicked into place. This wasn't just stargazing, it was an opportunity for him to connect not just with Lily but also with her peers. He could encourage a love of science in an entire generation. As the thought settled, a bolt of fear shot through him. What if he wasn't good enough to take that leap? He remembered the other parents at the workshop, the ease with which they navigated technical details. The shadows of self-doubt began to creep back in, threatening to consume the spark he had gained. But then, he realized, every great endeavor begins with risks and fears. It was how he tackled them that would shape him as a mentor and father. This was his moment to confront those insecurities head-on. The prospect of building a community within their shared interest ignited a flicker of determination. Okay, then. Let us get to work, Michael decided, a newfound resolve washing over him. They began brainstorming themes for their star nights, each week devoted to a different celestial body or scientific principle. As ideas flowed between them, Michael felt elation lift him. This was more than merely a series of events, it was a testament to their evolving relationship. However, lurking in the back of his mind was another troubling thought. How would he manage this alongside his demanding job? Balancing work and this newfound calling would be a monumental task. In the pursuit of fostering their joint passion, he couldn't afford to let his career slip. The stakes amplified as he sensed vulnerability creeping back in, his mind raced. Could he navigate both realms effectively? The path ahead seemed fraught with challenges, yet as the last words of their brainstorming session echoed in the night, Michael felt a shift deep within. He was ready to embrace the challenge. Failure was no longer an option, he would forge the life he envisioned for Lily and himself. With renewed resolve, he tucked Lily into bed, planting a kiss atop her head. But as he turned off her light, a gnawing question surfaced. What grand change awaited him and how would he rise to meet it? The answer hung like a distant star, twinkling against the night sky. The time had come to face his professional life head-on, aligning it with the dreams he had ignited in his heart. The following morning came with an intensity that almost made Michael feel as though he was waking up to a new life. He bolted upright in bed, the remnants of the night's thoughts swirling in his mind like a whirling cosmos. Plans for star nights blossomed, each idea igniting new possibilities. Yet, buried beneath the excitement was a nagging awareness. The reality of his job loomed in the background like a black hole, ready to pull him back into the mundane. After ensuring Lily was happy and engaged with her art supplies at the kitchen table, Michael stepped outside for a moment of clarity. The sun was still peeking over the horizon, casting a hopeful light onto the neighborhood. The split between his two worlds, professional obligations and personal passions, felt sharper than ever. He pulled out his phone to check emails, dreading the influx of messages from work demanding his attention. As he scrolled through the barrage of tasks piled up, despair started to claw at him. Decisions about budgets and client demands flickered on the screen, each one somehow more drab than the last. How could he leave this drudgery behind? Then, a memory sparked within him, a fleeting moment during the workshop. The facilitator had mentioned the importance of aligning one's career with personal passions to achieve true fulfillment. He took a deep breath, contemplating the risk those words entailed. Could he leverage the love for science he had just rediscovered to enhance his career? In that moment of realization, Michael gleaned insight into his latent abilities. It was time for him to explore how he could incorporate his newfound enthusiasm for astronomy into his professional life. He envisioned creating a program for local schools that combined science education with interactive workshops, much like the one he and Lily had attended. Would the school systems be interested in a father-son initiative aimed at inciting a curiosity for discovery and exploration? With urgency pulsating through him, he marched back to Lily, who was happily gluing stars onto paper. "Sweetheart, let's talk about our project a bit more. How do you feel about maybe working together with your school and some other kids?" Her eyes lit up as she paused her crafting. "Like, a show and tell?" "Exactly. More than that, though. It could be like a mini project where we teach your friends about the stars and planets. You can help me lead it." "Yay! Can we include rocket ships?" Michael laughed. "Of course, we can include rocket ships and everything. But I need to figure out how to approach your school about it." Her enthusiasm seemed to infuse Michael with renewed vigor. Planning a proposal for the school felt daunting but strangely exciting. It was an opportunity to not just teach Lily but also to grow personally and professionally. The fear from the previous night began dissipating, replaced by an eagerness to transcend his current limitations. However, the balance issue still loomed large. How would he carve out time to promote this ambitious endeavor amidst long hours at work? The challenge weighed on him. Each evening spent stargazing could slip away into late hours at the office if he wasn't careful. Stepping into the kitchen, he grabbed a piece of paper and began drafting ideas, feeling the pressure building as he outlined goals and potential lesson plans. This was no longer just a personal initiative, it had the potential to solidify his relationship with Lily while honoring the passions he had let languish for far too long. But just as his determination surged, a message pinged on his phone. A scheduling conflict at work whispered doubts back into his consciousness. How could he make this vision into a reality with the demands of his career pulling him away? Frustration gripped him, but it was also tinged with an invigorating sense of urgency. That urgency pushed him to set aside his fears and dedicate the weekend not just to stargazing but to refining his proposal, ready to dive headfirst into it. Yet the moment he began, a fresh question encroached upon him: how would he confront his boss about the shift he wanted to make? Would pursuing his passion trigger resistance in a field so firmly grounded in routine? As the sun illuminated the room, Michael felt the aspirations and uncertainties collide within. What path would unfold as he ventured to weave his professional landscape with his personal dreams? Would stepping into this new role empower him or unravel the stability he cherished? The stakes had never felt so high, and Michael grappled internally with the daunting realization that this journey was just beginning. Michael sat at the kitchen table, scribbling ideas furiously as he wrestled with a daunting reality. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each echo reverberating with an urgency he couldn't shake. He craved meaning but was tethered to an unyielding job that pulled him into meetings, emails, and daily stressors. Yet, thoughts of starlit nights with Lily brought warmth amidst the chaos. As he outlined the project proposal, Michael's mind raced through the logistics: how to structure the interactive workshop, what materials they would need, and how to maintain the engagement of the kids. But each thought spiraled back into the greater question of whether he could break free from the apathy of his current role. His hopes hinged on blending passion with profession, yet every hour spent working drained the resolve he was struggling to build. The weekend loomed ahead, a sliver of time he could claim for himself and Lily. As she walked into the room, her hands still sticky with glue from her art project, she brightened the somber atmosphere. "Can we go look at the stars tonight?" she asked, unwittingly nudging Michael's heart. "Absolutely," he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. Their ongoing projects were interwoven. Her excitement was his fuel. Each question she asked felt imbued with potential. However, a part of him remained unsettled about the conference call scheduled for Monday with his manager. This looming confrontation felt like a storm cloud obscuring his plans. How could he propose something so radically different without encountering disdain? Would his boss dismiss the idea as childish? Doubts pounced like predators on his resolve. Michael could feel his existing work commitments tightening their grip. The usual pressures, numbers, and deadlines were anchors weighing down the fragile wings of his aspirations. He scoffed at the contrast between his job and the life he yearned for. The digital clock blinked, and in that impatient moment, he made a decision. He couldn't let anxiety dictate his passion's trajectory. The next morning, with nerves churning, he crafted a concise email to his manager. He proposed a short discussion to explore innovative ideas aimed at educational outreach. Clarity mixed with terror as he hit send. He had stepped off a precipice, the ground below shrouded in fog, taking a deep breath, he turned his focus to Lily. Their weekend would be dedicated to finalizing their plan. If he could muster enough energy to charge through another week of work, perhaps he could launch their project afterwards. After breakfast, they gathered materials, colorful construction paper, markers, and a plan. As they worked, Michael felt the playful spark igniting between them. Every stroke she made on paper was mirrored by a stroke within him, painting a vision of what could be a father and daughter igniting curiosity in others. By the time evening descended, Michael found himself home from work, exhaustion weighing heavily on him. Yet it was counterbalanced by the eager twinkle in Lily's eyes as they prepared the backyard for their stargazing session. They laid out blankets, arranged snacks, and set up their telescope, an apparatus that seemed to shimmer like a beacon of hope in the darkness. As they settled beneath the vast expanse of the night sky, Michael couldn't help but feel a shift. There was no longer a divide between his ambitions and responsibilities, each merged seamlessly in this moment. He pointed out constellations to Lily, their light connecting them across time and space. But even amid these moments of connection, reality pulsed in the background. Tomorrow would bring the conversation with his manager, potentially transforming everything or augmenting the rift he feared. "You think we'll actually teach the kids about the stars?" Lily asked, her innocent curiosity pulling him from his internal tumult. "Absolutely," Michael replied, though doubt crept into his tone. "If they can dream like we do under this sky, who knows what they'll want to explore." As he spoke, Michael felt the pressure build again, the waves of anxiety crashing against the shoreline of his resolve. The joy of their evening flickered in and out, recalling the looming challenge of tomorrow. How would he balance his fears with the courage needed to reshape both their lives? The night deepened, and so did his sense of impending confrontation. Would he embrace this new path, or would the existing reality subdue his aspirations once and for all? As he pondered their shared dreams against the backdrop of twinkling stars, a single thought pierced through the darkness: it was time to confront not just his boss, but his own fear of change. He lay back on the blanket, staring up at the cosmos, a feeling of anticipation washing over him. Tomorrow may hold the key to a new beginning, or it could lead to a setback that would reverberate through their lives. He had to be ready to face whatever lay ahead. Would he take the plunge into uncertainty, determined to spark his passion, or would he be consumed by the abyss of doubt? The morning sun filtered through the curtains, spilling a warm glow across Michael's cluttered kitchen table. He sat there, his laptop glaring at him like a judgmental specter, the email resting in his inbox like a ticking clock. Every fiber of his being urged him to check for a response. Anxiety twined around his thoughts, heavy and invasive. With a deep breath, he quelled the urge to look and focused instead on the day's agenda. Today was not just another day at the office, today was an opportunity to carve out a new path. The workshop proposal was not simply an idea, it was a lifeline that could tether together his and Lily's futures. Shifting gears mentally, he ran through his presentation in his head. The tone would be key. A balance of passion and professionalism would demonstrate that this venture was grounded in realistic ambitions, not just whimsical daydreams. But self-doubt lingered as a shadow, whispering that he was not enough. Arriving at the office, the hum of busy colleagues filled the air. He maneuvered through the sea of faces, avoiding eye contact and the small talk that felt like a barrier to his true goal. Each step echoed with determination, a reminder of why he was taking this leap. The conference room loomed ahead. As he approached, his gut twisted uncomfortably. Voices floated out, familiar, dismissive, only fueled his apprehension. He had always been one to blend in, to avoid confrontation, yet today he needed to disrupt his regular pattern. Michael pushed through the door, heart hammering in his chest. "Morning, Michael." His manager's cheerful tone felt out of sync with the tension tightening his insides. "Ready for our discussion?" With a nod, he took a seat, his palms slick against the polished table. Michael opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Instead, memories of Lily's laughter and the wonder in her eyes while stargazing washed over him, bolstering his resolve. After exchanging formalities, he launched into his proposal, a mix of careful planning and creative vision. The suggestions flowed more freely than he anticipated. I believe an interactive workshop focused on astronomy could draw in our community. It's not just fun, it ignites curiosity, drives engagement. As he spoke, he watched for subtle cues, his manager's brow furrowing and relaxing, a shared interest possibly sparking. It was a delicate dance, tethering his professional acumen to his personal dreams. You want to focus on kids? His boss eventually interjected, skepticism shadowing his tone. That doesn't seem like the core of what we do here. Michael's breath caught in his throat, the confrontation he feared had come swiftly. I believe fostering that curiosity aligns with our goals. Engaging younger generations can strengthen our foundation while honoring the educational principles we uphold. Silence fell, broken only by the noise of the digital clock on the wall, each second a note in a tense symphony. He could sense the weight of his proposal hanging in the air, unsure if it would crumble under scrutiny or take flight. Finally, his manager leaned back, evaluating Michael with a mix of contemplation and uncertainty. Okay. Let us consider it. I'll speak with the team, but I need you to be ready to outline a clear plan. Measurement of success is crucial. The relief was immediate, yet nuanced steps forward mingled with the apprehension of potential setbacks. Michael nodded, fueled by a burst of determination. As he left the meeting, an unexpected thrill coursed through him. He had taken the plunge, igniting a spark of possibility, a dynamic response rippling through his mind. The intermingling of professional aspirations with his personal life was beginning to solidify. Returning home, he found Lily drawing star maps, imaginary galaxies swirling across paper. Her infectious enthusiasm reminded him that he had embraced his fear. How about I show you what I talked about today? Her eyes expanded with excitement, drawing him to her side with all the urgency of a gravitational pull. Really? What did you say? Michael knelt beside her, feeling stronger with each moment. We're going to try sharing our love for the stars. I want us to teach the kids. Lily's face brightened, her joy rekindling the flames of his fledgling dreams. The uncertainty began to dissipate, replaced by mutual excitement. Yet, a new challenge loomed on the horizon, uncertain currents threatening to engulf their freshly forged path. What if the resistance from management grew stronger? They were just beginning, but the stakes were rising. Can we start planning it now? She asked eagerly, pulling him back from his worries. Absolutely, he replied, an overwhelming sense of urgency urging him forward. Their imaginations began weaving a tapestry of ideas, but in the back of his mind, he wondered. Would the workshop even be realized, or was this just the start of a rocky journey filled with more challenges than he dreamed possible? As they sketched stars and plans beneath the colors of dusk, Michael felt the weight of the forthcoming storms. The momentum was building on all fronts. Today was a victory, but tomorrow threatened to reshape everything. Would they soar together, or would the gale winds pull them apart? The morning arrived with a hidden undertone of anticipation, as if the universe was holding its breath. Michael cracked the window open, letting the fresh air mingle with the aroma of his coffee, which he savored as part of a new routine. This morning might herald the start of something significant. Today, he was not merely a worker, he was a creator, ready to sculpt possibilities. With each sip, a mix of trepidation and excitement coursed through him. He glanced at the clock and felt the seconds press against him, the ticking a reminder that time was relentless. The proposal needed detail. Michael sat at his table once again, but this time, instead of an anxious stare at his laptop, he found himself ardently jotting down ideas. His pen glided across the page, outlining objectives and resources. He envisioned the glow of children's faces as they experienced science through the wonders of the universe. This was more than just a workshop, it was the formation of a legacy. By midday, he gathered his refined ideas together. Yet as he prepared to meet his manager, a sudden doubt wrapped around him once again. Was he truly equipped to lead this? The specter of self-doubt returned, whispering insidious thoughts. What if his proposal fell flat? What if management deemed him less capable than he perceived himself to be? He needed to quell these fears, doubt had already haunted him for too long. In the elevator on the way to his manager's office, he practiced breathing techniques, inhaling through the nose, holding it for a count, then exhaling through the mouth. This was not just business, it was personal, a crossroad between his aspirations and uncertainties. The elevator doors opened, and with each step down the corridor, Michael felt the familiar electricity of purpose reigniting his core. "Hey, Michael," his coworker Jenny greeted as they crossed paths. Her casual smile momentarily disarmed him. "Excited about the new project?" "More than excited." "Yeah, I am," he replied, searching for a genuine smile amidst his preoccupation. "You'll do great," she added, her confidence fortifying his wavering resolve. Stepping into his manager's office, Michael steadied himself against the desk. The manager looked up, his expression a blend of curiosity and mild expectation. "Let us hear it then," his manager prompted, leaning back in his chair. Michael launched into his presentation, voice steadying with each sentence. The proposal unfolded like a well-versed story, detailed outputs paired with engaging activities, evidence of community interest forming through preliminary surveys he deconjured with Lily's help. The momentum of his vision surged as he described expected outcomes and measurement strategies, illustrating every detail with the precision of a scientist. But just as spindles of excitement began to weave through the conversation, a frown creased his manager's brow. "What you're proposing is ambitious, Michael. I like that. But you know the resistance we face with upper management towards such experimental programs." He felt a wave of frustration at the obstacle, but he refused to allow it to drown his spirit. "This is critical," he insisted, his voice strong. "Imagine the engagement we could create. This isn't just a plan for today, it's about shaping future leaders." There was a beat of silence before his manager replied. "I'll give it serious thought. But expect to have to fight for this." Michael nodded, feeling something shift in him as he left the office. A battle, sure. He would confront this challenge head-on. As uncertainty lingered, determination surged within him, quieting the self-doubt he had carried for too long. Returning home, he found Lily waiting with her sketches sprawled across the kitchen table. "What's happening with the workshop?" she asked. Waves of pride washed over him as he shared today's outcomes. As he explained the hurdles, he asked, "What do you think we should do next?" Their discussion transformed into a late-night strategy session fueled by creativity. Watching Lily engage with the material, bouncing ideas back and forth, ignited a burgeoning confidence he never knew he possessed. Yet, that night, as he lay in bed, the shadows of doubt returned, darker and deeper. What if this confrontation led only to disappointment? What if management rejected not just the proposal but his very aspirations? One thing became evident: it was no longer just about a workshop, it was a personal revolution. Michael resolved that no matter the outcome, he would fight for what he believed in, not solely for himself, but for Lily's future as well. Before succumbing to sleep, thoughts raced through his mind, intertwined with the dreams of stars and aspirations. The first battle would soon come, with clarity on the distant horizon. Would this transformation of their lives emerge unscathed, or would he find himself in a pivotal struggle, testing both his resolve and his commitment? Tomorrow would surely bring its toll, but Michael was finally ready to confront what lay ahead. The sun peeked through the window, bathing the kitchen in a golden light that mirrored the renewed hope within Michael. Today was the day he would confront his manager with a developed proposal that embodied dreams not just for himself, but for the entire community. It was the culmination of many late nights and brainstorming sessions with Lily, turning their passion for stars into a tangible project that could ignite a love for learning in others. As he and Lily shared breakfast, anticipation danced in the air. She could sense the change in him, her little face glowing with excitement. "Are we really teaching them about the stars, Daddy?" she asked, her eyes bright. "Yes, Lily. Today is part of our journey," he replied, filled with confidence he hadn't felt in years. "We're shaping our future together." During the drive to work, Michael felt the weight of his purpose solidify. He had transformed from a man laden with doubt into a passionate advocate for education. There was no turning back now. As he parked the car and stepped into the office, there was a new energy in his stride. Today, he would fight for not only his ideas but for the legacy he desired to create for Lily. Inside the conference room, the atmosphere was tense with executives shuffled around, discussing quarterly goals and marketing strategies. But as he gathered his notes, an unexpected calm enveloped him. He was ready. When the moment arrived, Michael stood before his supervisor and the team, ready to unveil his vision. "What I propose is not only a workshop on astronomy but a gateway to inspire young minds," he declared, channeling all the energy he'd gathered through Lily's laughter and the nights spent under the stars. He outlined the goals: a curriculum that intertwined science with exploration, interactive learning experiences that could be available district-wide. "A program that empowers our future," he asserted, locking eyes with each manager around the table, hoping to connect with the essence of his message. They listened, some skeptical, but a few intrigued. "What about the resource investment?" one manager questioned. "We're already stretched thin." Michael felt a surge of resolve. This was the pivotal moment to prove that dreams and practicality can converge. He presented a well-thought-out plan for sponsorships and partnerships, outlining potential community engagement. "This can spark interest and involvement, turning our initiative into something that benefits everyone. Imagine the company's involvement in shaping the next generation of scientists." The room fell silent, and Michael could see doubts begin to wane. Encouraged, he leaned into the narrative, recalling snippets of laughter shared with Lily as they discovered constellations. It was as if each memory breathed life into his words. After a moment that felt like an eternity, the manager finally nodded. "All right, we'll give it a chance. But you must keep us updated with progress metrics." Relief washed over Michael, a tidal wave of triumph drowning the shadows of self-doubt he'd carried for so long. He left the meeting with a sense of clarity, realizing he had not only advocated for their educational project but also shattered the confines of his own fears. That evening, he returned home to an enthusiastic Lily waiting at the doorstep, her art supplies scattered like dreams waiting to take flight. "Did you tell them?" she asked, hope in her voice. "I did, sweetheart. And guess what? They said yes." Lily leapt into his arms, her glee igniting warmth in his heart. In that moment, Michael grasped the monumental truth: he had transformed. No longer was he just a mechanic juggling fatherhood with aspirations, a father, yes, who had found his voice. As the days turned into weeks, each star night morphed into exciting crafting sessions where they designed materials for their workshop. Michael found joy in watching Lily lead when she enthusiastically discussed their project with her friends. She was blossoming into a curious, bright-eyed dreamer. Weeks later, the workshop was filled with children's laughter echoing against the walls of the school. Michael stood beside Lily, demonstrating the wonders of stars through hands-on activities, his heart swelling with pride. Not only had he managed to transform their lives, but he was also nurturing a community of young learners that in those moments filled with connection and affirmation. Michael felt a sense of accomplishment surge through him. He had proven to himself that he could conquer fears, teach resilience, and instill a love for science that would last lifetimes. He had not only ignited a passion in Lily but had fundamentally reshaped his own identity. Embracing risks and knowing that it was okay to take leaps had marked his journey. The potential he unlocked would continue to define their path together, grounding them in exploration and love. As they gazed at the stars that night, Michael embraced his daughter tightly. They were builders of dreams, explorers of the universe, and most importantly partners in life. Michael knew he had conquered not just a workshop proposal but the deeper fears governing his choices. He was a father directing a ship not only toward a better life for Lily, but also toward his own fulfilled professional aspirations. The night sky stretched above them, its vastness no longer daunting. It was a landscape of opportunity, lit by the brilliance of newfound dreams. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.